All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel again. Thank y'all so much for coming over. Now, look, when we talk about actors in Hollywood, people who you think should be more famous, have bigger roles, this guy is at the top of the list. I met this dude in person a few times working at the Staples Center. I think it might have been Clipper games or Laker games. I can't remember. But, you know, one of his biggest roles is Pinky on Friday. Clifton Powell exposes Hollywood's dark side. We're back on the Art of Dialogue channel. I'll leave the original video in the description for you guys to check out more and even subscribe, man. This brother here, though, if you know, you know. All right, we ain't gonna waste no more time. Let's jump right into it.
And speaking of that, right, I want to backtrack to your comments about skin tone. I heard that she was up for a big role in a big TV movie, but you didn't get the role because of your skin tone? The Rudy Bridges story?
Well,
Huh?
basically, what happened was the producers told the director, whose name was Usan Palsy, that I was so dark that it looked like I would scare everyone. So they wouldn't hire me. And that's what happened on that. I haven't spoken on it, but I'm going to put it in my book. And basically, that's what happened. So her, who's African and French, and a white producer whose name I can't remember, said, "Mr. Powell, you are our first choice. If you don't get this role, it's not because we didn't fight for you."
Damn.
But that's happened to me on a McDonald commercial. One of my friends was the producer and the agency, and the agency thought I was just too dark. You got to understand. I tell people, like I told my panel last night, there was an article years ago. I'm not sure if it was in Esquire magazine that talked about Black Hollywood, white Hollywood. And there's an article in there by Wesley Snipes, white agent from CAA, that sent Wesley in for a role. And this is documented. And they called him and said, "Don't send anybody darker than Denzel." Racism permeates, and it's not the same anymore, because we've seen, really dark-skinned actresses and dark-skinned actors. But you got to understand, if Obama was my complexion, he wouldn't have been president. You know what I'm saying? I still get followed around stores. I mean, I ride first class. I was in first class one time, and this guy kicked my seat. And I stood up and I said, "Would you kick my seat if I was a white boy?" Because there's all kinds of different people in the world that like, what is this doing flying first class with us up here? I'm like, I make more money than all of you.
Sheesh. I'll be having some really, really deep conversations with my wife, and we always just talk about how crazy the world is right now. We all know it still exists. We know that. Um, I think what he's saying is what I said in the beginning of the video, is that, like, because if you look at his track record, his acting history, he should have had bigger roles than he has had. Uh, it's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we don't get to see. That's why I like watching interviews like this, because they'll go in depth, especially when they talk about, like, this is, my agent tried everything, but this is what they came back and said. Sheesh.
All in first class. So you got to understand, still people like that in the world. It's people like that in this business. I did a TV series, which I am not going to say, but some of the Teamsters were Klan members.
Huh?
This is real. It's real. I don't take any from anybody that's racist, sexist, or anything, period. And I can tell you a billion stories, and I'm never going to take it. Period.
There you go.
I encountered some racism on New York Undercover. And the sound man, he was trying to put the mic in my hair. I had a scarf. I was playing this little thug guy. And I had a head wrap like Tupac used to wear. And I told the sound guy, I said, "Sir, I don't want to run the wire up in my hair because I'm going to be rolling on the ground." Maybe I was being a little overprotective, but I could choke. Freak accidents happen in this business all the time. There was a girl, let me tell you this story, on Vampire in Brooklyn, black stunt lady jumping off a building. Her first jump was successful. Her family was there. The second jump, somebody adjusted the mat. Go look this story up. She jumped, hit the mat, and bounced into the wall and died instantly.
Damn.
Yeah. So as I was talking to the sound man, now on a lot of the African American shows back in the day, all the writers, producers were white. You may have one or two black folks there. I don't deal with racism very well because I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I grew up with good white folks and a million black people. So it's one of my triggers. So I told the sound guy, I said, I don't want to put the wire in my hair. So he turned to me and looked me in my eye. He said, I tell you what, then, why don't you do your sound in post? You know what that means?
No, I don't. No, sir.
What that means is, why don't you do the show while you're here this week, and then you let them fly you back in and then put your sound in. I said, no problem. So I called the first AD, and I said, I think your sound man is a racist. He said, well, what happened, Mr. Powell? I said, well, I was telling him I wanted to put the mic either down on my leg or behind my back and put the wire up in my shirt somewhere. And he told me to do mines in post. So he said, don't worry, I'll talk to him, Mr. Powell. So I assumed that he talked to him. I got back after lunch. I had to go to sound, same sound guy. I said, sir, like I said before, I don't want to put the wire in my hair. And then he said, what did I tell you? He might have said, boy. He said, boy, what did I tell you before?
Damn.
And I stepped back and I said, let me tell you something, bro. I will knock the f out of you on this set. And any one of you white boys got a problem with me, I'll fight every one of you motherfuckers. Period. And I went to my trailer and I called my manager and I said, I'm leaving. She said, what's the problem? And I said, what the problem? She said, well, Cliff, you're in New York. I said, I don't give a f where I am.
You see that? That's what I be saying. You get certain roles and they expect you to do all these things. It reminded me of when Dave Chappelle said he showed up back to his trailer and there was a dress in there, you know, and they were trying to convince him to wear it. Look, you already know it's an evil, evil game. And as I said before, the people that you see on the screen all the time, those are the ones who comply, who are willing to do it all. Yeah. Man.
So the producer called me. He said, what is the problem? I said, this is the problem. Your sound man is a racist. He told me to do my sound in post. I said, so this is what I'm prepared to do. I'm prepared to give you back your hotel money, your flight money, and I'm flying out as soon as I get out of my trailer. He says, Mr. Powell, give me a minute and we'll get you right, because I had the wrong trailer. They put me in a honey wagon. SAG regulates this. So I'm supposed to get everything I'm supposed to get as per SAG. The next day I had a brand new trailer and nobody in the crew talked to me. I did my week and I left. Dr. King said, a man can't ride your back unless it's bent. Period. And that's how I approach this business. I try to be amiable. I try to be cool, but I'm also a young man that has worked his ass off to get everything I have. I try to be pleasant. I don't believe in any of the isms, but you're not going to punk me. It's never going to happen. I will die first. And that's just how I feel. And if people are listening, please try to understand. It's a lot of sexism in this business. It's still a lot of racism, much better than it was. And I'm not going to bash Hollywood because Hollywood is a microcosm of what's going on in the world right now.
Facts.
I'm just not that guy. And I'm never going to be that guy. And so I've lost work because of it. I've been fired because of it. I've walked off of sets because of it.
There it is.
And that's just the way it's going to be. And that's how I operate. And I'm not bragging. I'm not boasting. I just try to come to work and do my job. Period. I had a McDonald's commercial. There's two black. Simon, the guy wanted me to be a coon. It's the same. Being a coon and being blocked is the same thing to me. You know, when they fire you, because if it's not like I sat down and tried to talk to this guy about Harlem. He'd never heard of Harlem, really. I said, do you know you want me to make fun of Harlem, which historically is one of the most exclusive African-American enclaves in the world, where black entertainers couldn't go downtown, so they had to stay in Harlem. Central Avenue in Los Angeles. They used to, you have the black hotels. The black entertainers couldn't go to the white places, so they had to stay in Central Avenue. And then they came in and tore Central Avenue apart. You know, I'm not going to make fun of Harlem. Harlem may not look like the Harlem of yesteryear, but Harlem has a lot of historical references and history. And then I did the Langston Hughes poem. I said, have you dug the spill of Sugar Hill? Cast your gems on the sepia thrill. Brown sugar lassie, caramel treat, honey gold baby. That's Langston Hughes talking about Harlem. And you want me as a woke black man to come on your show and make fun of Harlem? I'm not doing that. And I walked off. So, I'm sure I've lost other jobs because they thought I might have been too strong or too masculine. I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time analyzing. I just know what I'm going to do. And I don't want to come across like I'm a gangster or a thug. I'm just a real man who stands up for his rights. That's what I am. And I'm always going to be that way.
And there you have it. I love hearing stories of people talking about what happens behind the scenes, because we don't really get to see that. You just see a movie and the movie's out. But, there are definitely movies that you watch and you be like, damn, I can't believe this dude actually agreed to do this in the movie. You know what I mean? People will look at it, especially if it's a comedy or something, they'll go, oh, it's just entertainment. But people have boundaries, people have lines that they will never cross, and they don't want you to cross. And I feel like once you stand firm on that and let them know, then the word is going to get out. Other directors and producers are going to make that call of like, yo, if you considering this dude, just know that he ain't gonna do this, he ain't gonna do that. So you need to find someone else that's more uh lenient or whatever, because right now we got him on set and he just went off on us because we told him that he had to do this and he said he ain't going for it. You know what I mean? That's when you hear those stories when they say, oh, what's the name was supposed to get this role, but he didn't. So there you have it, man. Wow. I can't say I'm shocked. I just didn't know. I can't say that I'm shocked at what he said. I just didn't know that he had went through this. Dang. But yeah, it makes sense. Because like I said, if you look at his track record, you would think he would be on the lines of like, in the category with like Denzel, Samuel, who else? Like you would think he would be in that range, but he ain't. All right, appreciate y'all coming over and watching, man. Peace out.